I swear I said this last week and I completely forgot. I need to make that longer.
Well, you don't care about me enough. That's the problem.
Ding, 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 ding. It's too short. It's just, I don't even know that I like the music anymore. I hate everything.
I think it got shorter. I think it actually got shorter than last week.
Never. You might be right. I think every time it chops, it's like, I was talking to someone. Who was I talking to? I was in a meeting and I was talking to someone who was like the HR manager of this company that I was doing some work with. I was in Newfoundland. Don't judge. Excuse me. And she said her first job was working at a theater, like that showed movies, but like, on the, I don't know if you're old, I'm old enough to remember like when they were on like a big spool and you had to, and it was like you'd have 3 or 4 different ones and they'd have to edit them and clip them together to keep the movie going.
I mean, I remember learning about them.
Okay.
I'm very young. So
okay. So she says, and this is, it'll make sense in a second. She said, so when you're putting the two together, you have to cut the edges every time to get them closer, or sorry, to attach them.
Okay.
Because they're coming different spools. And then once it all spools through, you have to cut it again and then put one in one canister, one in the other. And there was up to 4 canisters. And that's why some movies used to have intermissions, because there were so many. They had like, Gone with the Wind had 4 different things. So they had to like
replace the whole spool.
And they have to replace the whole spool. So she says, so the way that it works is you rent it. And so you give it away. And you rent it, and then it goes to another theater and another theater. And she goes, what would happen is if they played it a lot, you're cutting. By the time like the last person had it and they're showing it in the theater, you might be missing like a second or 2 of the movie. So it might jump from like, hey, and there's nothing you could do about it. And I never thought of it, but I was like, that's what's happening with our intro. It's every week.
It must be.
Or yours. Yeah. It's yours. And then by like, I don't know, maybe week 6, it's just gonna be like ding, and then that's it. It's just over. It'll be.
We're doing a classic style over here.
I think I can recreate it. It's gonna be this fast.
We have an AI image. However, we are still using the classic spool video.
Yes, we're the spool. It's like this. Have fun with that one. Are you sure that I can't say?
Yeah, let's just anything? Move on.
Okay, fine. Hey, I know not a lot of people are on yet, and a lot of people watch this after the fact. Go into the super chat and say you have to tell us what you guys are talking about. Let's start with the good stuff, like the healthy stuff. When I say the good stuff, okay. which is we have a weekly health tip. And I feel like it should be something along the lines of, hey, Tone, you shouldn't be drinking so much pop. But I don't think that's what it is.
We haven't actually talked about your health habits before.
Because I don't have any health habits.
What is your worst non-health decision, habit?
I drink a lot. Honestly, it's the only thing that I really do that's bad. Well, there's 2, which is I do drink a lot of soda pop, depending on what part of the world you're in. And
what kind of
do
pop?
Like
Minnesota, we say soda.
Soda. Yeah, I said soda or pop. I said depending on what part of the world.
No, we say pop in Minnesota. Now I get
pop?
confused because I don't ever say that word. But it's pop in Minnesota, and people go pop.
Let's be clear. It's called soda pop. So whether you call it soda or pop, you're actually right.
Yeah.
For the record, I know everyone wants to make that a debate, but it's soda pop. So yes, soda. Yes, some sarsaparilla. Yes,
what kind?
All of them.
Wow. Okay.
All of them.
Never like mostly like
mostly the usual. Well, you know why? I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. It's like I don't. It's. I have to have something.
Do you think you're better COVID, than the rest of us? Just
100%. 100%. I know that I'm better. Up until COVID, I didn't even drink coffee.
So how did the pop thing happen?
Oh, the pop, I always drank it.
Okay. Since you were a child and it just continued.
No. When I got injured and was told that I'd never play basketball again, that's when I did do all that stuff that I just said that I don't do.
Okay.
to cope, and pop was the only one that stuck.
Okay.
Which is probably
I was
not
just telling someone the other day that, like, how terrible I used to eat in college, like playing basketball. Like, I wish I had better habits until I was done. But we, now it's the Stanleys that everyone has, but back then it was Nalgene bottles, and we all had the college Nalgenes, and it was just the screw top things. But I had a CSU one that they gave us when we went to the dorms, and we had like the A+ meal plan, and so like it was every morning a whole Nalgene of Mountain Dew is what I would get before going to class.
Yeah.
And then how did I go play 4 hours of basketball later and just feel like complete trash ball? Like, that's awful.
Would you? That's the problem, I think, is when I was that age, it didn't matter what I put into my body. I always felt good.
You
And
didn't
like,
think it mattered, but it probably
I,
did.
yes, but I meant, yes, I felt like it didn't matter. Like I could eat anything and I wouldn't gain an ounce.
Same.
Or a pound.
Yeah.
And then, yes, you're right. Eventually it was like, oh, here it all is in one shot. So
yeah,
that's what happens. That's so yeah. So you asked me Pepsi, Diet Pepsi, Pepsi Max, Coke, Diet Coke, Coke Zero, Mountain Dew. If you give me a bottle of Mountain Dew and a bag of Doritos, I'm in.
I don't even care what it is. I'll just like,
yeah. You know that thing
free.
where they put everything in? Like you go to 7-Eleven and they
Wop, a pop wop.
Yeah.
We should make pop wop. Actually, it's you just go into the gas station and pour the drip tray out into your drink.
Yeah. See, it's so funny. That's exactly what you're doing, but like it just sounds gross when you say it that way.
It's like a what's the like a Long Island, like of the drinks, but for pop.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, other than the pop, I think I'm a big dessert guy too. Like I'd skip dinner and have dessert.
Because you just have a sweet tooth, or because
yeah, I do. Yeah. Like
this is kind of leading into one of my health tips that we were going to
talk about. They say I have a sweet tooth. I just think it's because I like to eat, and at the end of a meal, it'd be weird to order another meal or another appetizer. So I'm like, oh, I'll have a dessert, and I'm quite often the only one. So like, especially at work dinners, functions, where I'll be sitting there and there's 6 people and they're like, oh, they come with the dessert. And I'm like, what do you got? I'm like, okay, I'll have that. Anybody else? And they're like, no. And then they'll bring they'll bring like 4, 5, 6 spoons. I'm like, wait, bring another spoons? Get the hell out of here.
But maybe it's because you drink pop. Maybe your blood sugar's, kind of unstable all over the place. So you like often crave a lot of food that you shouldn't be eating.
So interesting point. And I know and I hope I'm not going to derail what you're going to talk about.
No, it would be a good lead-in.
Have you ever had? Well, I don't know. Have you ever had a doctor tell you, I don't understand your like blood work because everything
all the time,
everything is perfect.
Question.
Like, I mean, cholesterol, blood sugar, blood pressure, like everything. They're like, and she goes, and you're her words, and you're so obese. I have no idea. Like, because she looks at the scale and I'm supposed to be 185. And I told you I'm morbidly obese because I'm 250.
Yeah, but like, here's my question.
Yes.
They run like 5 things and you guys get free healthcare. So they're not running very much lab work.
100%. You're right.
So 100%. You took 5 labs and now you're telling me you're confused, which is exactly how I feel about the healthcare system. That pretty much sums it up.
It used to be better.
When?
I don't know. They keep it's good if
it doesn't matter if you're paying for it or not. You still don't like get your money's worth of any of it.
It's good if you're on government assistance and you don't work. And it's good if something goes wrong. And I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
My son was in an incubator for the first month of his life. He got great care and he's in perfect health now. And I paid not 1 cent. No problem.
Yep.
My mother went through 3 bouts of cancer, never had to wait for treatment, and never had to pay a dime for anything.
Yeah.
So I've lived through a couple of instances where I know people, my neighbors and friends to the south, that has put them into bankruptcy. So in those cases, it's like, great.
Yeah.
However,
yeah,
I also had a broken vertebrae. And if it wasn't for me getting a friend of mine who's a gastrointestinal surgeon to like get me an MRI in a couple of days, like I would have to wait 6 months. So there's positives. That's not the norm. So there's positives and negatives.
Yeah, definitely, like in emergency situations, surgery type scenarios.
Yeah.
Like my nephew is like $1 million kid plus like $2 million kid or something,
Right.
Whatever. So yes, of course, so thankful for Western medicine, but in general, health, like awful, right? So I think that's the part for me where like,
well, when you live in a place where you can't get a doctor, like a family doctor, like that's not good.
right.
That's now.
Yeah, or like we're gonna send you into a specialist, but you have to wait 6 months, and it's like, well, in 6 months I could be dead, or I could have like now 8 problems because I can't
No,
get
it's
in.
more the latter. Like if it's serious, you'll get in right away.
Okay.
Right. That is the one thing you will get in. That's one of the misconceptions, I think, is that everybody has to wait regardless. No, the problem is if it's not super serious, then they kind of put you to the back, and that's when you have to wait. And that's when it could be, oh, hey, this has turned into something. But if you push a little bit, like I don't mean to bring up my kids all the time, but like my daughter, I don't know if I have twins, boy girl twins, and so she, when she was 2, had something going on with her knee where she couldn't put any pressure down on her leg, and went to one hospital, yeah, you're fine. Went to another emerge, no, you're fine. Went to our family doctor, and he's like, yeah, no, or their pediatrician, excuse me, and he was like, yeah, it doesn't look like it's like a septic. Well, guess what? Push. Finally went to Sick Kids in Toronto, which, by the way, of the hospitals, like that is the one where I don't care where you are in the world, Sick Kids Toronto is actually world renowned for being. So if you can get to that great one out of the bunch, went to Sick Kids, they're like, oh, she's got this septic knee thing. We need to do surgery now.
Wow.
And they had to drain it, and they were like, and they said, oh, we'll do it in the morning. And we had been there all night and said, we're going to do it in the morning. And at about 3 a.m, they came back and said, hey, we can't wait till 6 a.m. We're going to do it now. And I'm like, oh, now you're getting scared. So they do it. She's fine. She's great. She's a competitive dancer. She just spent the weekend winning a bunch of big medals this week. That being said, another kid came in with the same thing, didn't push hard enough, didn't get there fast enough, and they had to amputate the leg. So sometimes you got to push.
Yeah.
All right. Now I depressed everybody. How's your day?
Great.
Oh, awesome. So how does that relate to your health tip? You're supposed to be talking, not me.
Well, so you were talking about sugar cravings and your pop habit, whatever. So, one of my health tip for today is a huge thing that seems very simple, sort of like the fiber thing we talked about last week, but it's about insulin and glucose control. And like one of people's main things is like their cravings or their late night, like it's always later in the day at the end of the day. And typically it is because of a glucose imbalance or blood sugar instability. And the majority of people have an up and down throughout the entire day in their glucose because they're not eating enough. Number one, stress. Number two, number three is their protein intake is too low. And so if you're not eating enough calories, you're not eating enough protein, and you have a lot of stress on top of it, you're slamming caffeine all morning. And let's say you have you eat some sugar in the morning or a huge fat latte because that holds you over for half the day and now you're not full or you're too full to eat.
Yeah, but those vanilla lattes are delicious.
800 calories in a Starbucks latte, yes. And then and then at night, oh my, I just have a sweet tooth, or I just get this sugar craving every night. I don't understand. And it's like you've eaten not even real food all day. If you've calculated your protein, it's probably like barely a fifth of your body weight for the entire day. And protein is what stabilizes your glucose levels and your calories in general. Calories being too low is going to throw off your stress levels, which will in turn make a huge difference in your glucose levels, and you're getting these like highs and lows, these like really drastic falls.
But what if you eat all those things and you're doing the other stuff too?
I don't think that's true for most people. Like if you're eating enough food, if you're eating enough protein, it's probably highly unlikely that they're still experiencing that. And if they do, there's probably something else underlying. So with your doctor who's like, your blood work's amazing, I don't understand. Well, did she talk to you about your nutrition? Did she actually run enough to determine that your glucose is good? Because sometimes they'll run like a fasted glucose level, but they won't run like your fasted insulin or an A1C or, all the other things. And
Oh,
you
I'm gonna not go out on a limb and say absolutely not. We don't have those
right.
numbers.
So, and then like you can't really, even if your blood sugar is normal, you can have like very elevated insulin levels. Your body is pumping
Hmm.
that stuff out just to keep your glucose down. And that is what they call pre-diabetic, where your body is like, you're eating too much sugar. We have to keep, I always say we when I talk about your own body. I have to keep pumping this insulin out just to keep your blood sugar and your glucose down. And at some point your body can't keep up anymore, and the insulin can't keep up with the glucose to get into the cell to then regulate it and to be utilized in the cell. Then the blood sugar starts to rise and the insulin's high at the same time. And that's where like people then get into this like actual diabetic mode, or like beginning of diabetes stage, because they're overproducing that insulin. So some of it's a digestive issue, like they don't have the right enzymes because of other gut issues. A lot of it is dietary habits. And I will say this, one of the main issues with cholesterol and cholesterol being elevated is actually a glucose issue. It's not a sodium issue. And it's not a fat intake issue. It's a insulin blood sugar issue.
So if I am, because what you're saying, like you're describing me, and I'm
Yeah.
like, my brother, I have a brother 10 years older, kind of overweight, pretty much since he was 20,
Yeah.
diabetic, and then not, diabetic, and then he had to change everything. So for myself, because I didn't even know that was a thing, pre-diabetic, is it too late, or can you make changes to
Yeah. You can
like,
make changes. Yeah. Yeah.
okay,
You have to get you have to, you create insulin as a response. And so a lot of the time it's because you're not eating enough protein to stabilize the glucose that you are eating. So carbohydrates, sugars, whatever is highly unstable when there isn't enough protein to keep it. Your glucose levels are not the same when you're eating protein. Like
mhm.
it's not as erratic. So people who are hammering carbs all day long, carbohydrates without any protein, you're going to get these drastic highs and lows throughout the day. You jack up your protein intake along with that. You stop craving as much food, but then your blood sugar will drastically change as well. So that's a huge issue. There's other lifestyle changes that play, kind of a big role in that, but that's like a huge, part of it. So
Hmm. We might have to have
yeah. And there's like a lot of holistic stuff you can take for glucose issues, and some of it is having enough digestive enzymes. Like pancreatic enzymes are what help break down protein, carbs,
So
fats.
what are some of those good foods that help with that?
Well,
Good foods or
the
good
digestive
whatever's.
process starts in your mouth. So while you're chewing your food, you're creating enzymes in your mouth to start breaking down food. Your saliva is part of that digestive process. There's enzymes in your saliva. Most people take one bite and swallow it whole, and they're rushing through their food. You know what I mean? Like, and I used to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
it too,
yeah,
but it's like, yeah, like the stress part of it and not like chewing enough and, whatever. If you have had long-term issues with your digestive system, like you could also have pancreatic issues. I have people who now are very healthy that work with me, who are following meal plans or whatever, but they got too far along the process before they started addressing it, where now they like need assistance to like heal their gut and to maybe take some digestive enzymes or different things that then like assist them in that process. So
right.
it's, yeah, on the whole, again, like the diet part is the part that starts it, but even like a round of antibiotics or like a extremely stressful event or an accident or a big surgery, like there are certain things that can like trigger the body to then like get into this zone of, not creating enough and stress eating. Like when my brother-in-law like suddenly passed away in 2018, it was very sudden. My sister had their baby 4 days later, their first baby, who was then had a heart defect and might have died. Like it was one of the most stressful times of my life. he was in the hospital for 3 months. Like, we didn't know he was going to make it. I think I gained like 15 pounds that summer because I was so stressed. I couldn't eat enough. And then when I did eat, I had the worst cravings. And then I go home and like have 2 glasses of wine after I got home from the hospital because I could not calm down my nervous system. You know what I mean? And so like, yeah, there's life events and shit that happens that you like are just like, hey, I'm like just dealing with life and the crap that happens. And so like, I do have empathy for people who are dealing with real stuff, but sometimes it's because of just unknowingness of like how your system works and like what you need to do, you know?
I would say for me, it's unknowingness.
Yeah.
And no, but that's not true 100% either, because I know I can make a better choice. Like I know I could grab a water and put a little lemon in it, and that would be just fine for me to drink with my dinner. But I'm like, nah, I'd rather have pop. Or even I could, not that this is great, but I could take my water and hit it through my soda stream, right? And put a little lime in there and still get the fizz and the taste that I want. But I'm like, nah, I'd rather have that, right?
Yeah.
So I there's there's those things. I could sit there and be like, I feel full.
Yeah.
I had a good meal and out with friends, and I can just sit and have a chat and leave. But I'm like, nah, I'll have that tiramisu and the espresso. It's sure, why not? Right?
Yeah.
Like, so there's definitely some, I don't, not to claim, there's some of not knowing, and then there's some of
and I mean,
let me live a little. When I lived in Greece, we would have a big meal, a cigarette, another course, another cigarette, another course, another cigarette, a thing of coffee, dessert, and then we'd go out drinking. Like that was the typical. That was a day.
Well, and I mean, like we all make those choices, right? It's like,
sure,
what do I enjoy? What's worth it? What's not? I mean, we become oblivious to the things that we don't want to know. Some people are that way, or and I think that's why like some of the Netflix like documentaries and some of this stuff like open people's eyes to certain things. Like once you know it, you can't unknow it. And that's how I feel about talking about some of this stuff and like the stuff I talk about on my Instagram and like TikTok and whatever, because I'm like, people just don't know the information. And like, even if you're like, hey, I'm addicted to soda, like I have to have a little bit every day, but right now I'm drinking like 8 cans of pop a day. And that's like really kind of insane. I know you're not, but if you
the good part is it's one. And occasionally, like if I'm out, it's those damn free refills. They keep giving you a new one, and it's
but like my thing is like people make choices every day because they don't understand like how it works. And like even if you're not going to drastically change everything and be a completely disciplined, crazy person, you are at least making lifestyle choices that will carry over into other areas of your body, and it over time will like make you less inclined to be like, oh, I'm craving this or whatever, like, or I'm more complacent or I feel more whatever, because nothing is worse than like having uncontrollable, because I had like a binge eating episodes after my first show in college, and it was like one of the worst feelings in the world, where I like literally felt like compulsed and like could not whatever. And now I'm like, that's actually really crazy, because I'm not like never get that way ever, where I can't feel like I can just hold back and whatever. I'm assuming it's like how an alcoholic feels like when they can't stop drinking. It's like there's a compulsory whatever. And so I do have empathy for certain people in those aspects, but I do think I had like a thyroid issue. There was a lot of imbalances. There was, deficiencies going on. There were things that were like driving the cravings that my body was lacking. There's something going on. And so I think we get those symptoms and signs and we blame ourselves that we don't have that discipline. But in reality, it's like the deeper things in our systems that are, missing or showing us what's going on. Yeah. So
I'll give myself some credit, because I am actually lucky in the sense that I am disciplined, right? Like I can just say, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I don't, or I'm not. 3 days, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna have any more. I'm not gonna drink any coffee in the next few years. Well, no problem, didn't do it. Like it's just it's not.
Once you decide, then you're good. Yeah.
So I know that I'm lucky that way, and I know that there's other people who it's just not a thing, and it's like some people are disciplined and they can stop themselves. Other people can't stop themselves, and they just slide into your DMs and they ask you crazy things. So you said,
this is hilarious. I love these
did
choices
you like that?
that you put on here.
Did you like that transition?
This is clickbait here.
I picked the two biggest stars in the world on purpose, not thinking it's either one of them, but
you always start in the LeBron James shit, are you, over here?
Oh yeah, 100%. They love me for it. If I didn't, they would think I was sick or something. Okay,
right.
but so you had said there was an MLB guy, an NBA guy, an MLB, MMA, and an NBA. I thought there was an NFL guy, but maybe I'm wrong. So I picked my favorite.
There's more than one of each, all the things.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And as the days and weeks and months go on, I'm going to try my best to get you to share more and more of their names and tell me the story of what happened. However, you've agreed to tell us one. And I said, okay, at least tell me what sport that one is in. So you said NBA. So yes, I picked four people two I picked because it's LeBron and Jokic, and they're just, I was hoping people would see it and tune in. Oh, there's my balloons. And then the other two, and I'm going to give some more. The other two are two that I think are realistic. And I'm going to share first. I 100% believe that it's Zion, because there's no hungrier man in the world than Zion Williamson. So I'm that's going to be my early pick. That being said, the other one is Dwight Howard. Forget the pictures of LeBron and Jokic. Let me think, because what's has thrown me for a loop is that you said that you like a guy, not necessarily the height, but they have to be big. And I don't know if these people know that. So now I'm racking my brain looking at, well, who is that type of guy in the NBA? And I'm like, well, no, hold on. They might not know it. It could be like a Brandon Ingram who's a beanpole. Like, I don't know. So I was thinking of the big guy. So I was thinking, okay, there's Lou Dort.
Well, I don't think.
Yes.
I mean, you could be like 5'5" guys, like the fetish people, and there's just no end to the
yes, but there's no 5'5" guy in the NBA.
No, but I'm just saying, like, if they want what they want, that's it. Sure. They don't care. You know what I mean? That's what I mean.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give you my top four. I think Zion is one. I'll say Dwight is two. I'll go Lou, and some of these guys you might not even know. Lou Dort is three. And I did talk about this with somebody else, and they threw in this name. So I'm gonna go Steven Adams, I don't know if you know Steven Adams, big Australian. Steven Adams at number 4.
It's like now, do you like choice?
Do you like that? So do you want to tell us some of the things that were done, said, whatever, or do you want to just start with the name and go from there? It's your choice, because it's your life, and it's coming unhinged right before our eyes.
So there's people's names that I won't mention, but then we can talk about messages or weird things that are said or
okay. So let's start before we do the big reveal. Let's start with a couple of, maybe just say the sport, and then maybe say something about
like a scenario.
Sure. Like, wasn't there one
or messages? So I don't actually even remember this fellow's name. It was not even a week or two ago. Actually, it was after our first show. I don't think you saw the show.
You're welcome.
He was in the NFL, and I don't even know who it is, because he's probably not even 30 years old. But the second somebody messages me,
taking notes. NFL
what?
Under 30. Okay, I said I'm taking notes. NFL under 30s. Okay.
The second somebody messages you under vanish mode, it's an immediate, obvious red flag, right? So, I mean, I understand that if you're in a professional sports, maybe you're trying to keep it low key.
Sure.
Whatever. But the approach is always off the wall. Like,
may I pause and ask you 2 questions? Because I actually didn't know what vanish mode was at first until I accidentally, like when you get to the bottom of the messages, if you swipe up, it goes into vanish mode. And I found out accidentally and unfortunately, and I'll tell you quickly the scenario, just so you understand, because you can maybe explain to the people, because this is only on IG, correct? Is that where most of these come from?
Yeah.
Okay. Richard Jefferson, the basketball player, is a fan of our basketball show and a fan of my co-host. And he said, and he's chimed in, and they've kind of done some work together and stuff. And he said, hey, like, I heard you're having like your 100th episode. And I said, yeah, we're actually asking a few people like yourself to like say, hey, congratulations to Fluent and Chill on your 100th episode. This was last year sometime. And I said, would you mind putting a little 30-second video together and shooting it off? And he goes, yeah, absolutely. Sure. No problem. And so cool. he does it. He DMs it to me on IG. I'm not realizing we're in vanish mode. I watch it and it disappears. And I'm like, oh, Rich. And then it was too late. It was just because it was the day of the show. So we didn't get to air it. And I was like, and I was telling him, I'm like, Richard Jefferson did this really nice. Hey, congratulations on your 100th episode.
He's like, what a weirdo.
It's not going to make it. It's not going to make it to air. So vanish mode is sign one. And so, so it's IG because that's okay.
So yeah, I don't even remember. Then he said something weird, like I don't even remember. I screenshotted it, and then he was like, "No screenshots."
When you say it's weird, like it's like a pickup line, like, "Hey, do you like pizza?" Yeah, I do. Why? Because I'd like a pizza. You like? Is it like that, like cheesy stuff, or is it like weird?
No, it's like a sexual perverted sort of comment.
Oh,
like I'm supposed to be like I don't know how you expect somebody to respond.
Okay, are you gonna read it?
Maybe.
It looks like you're looking for it.
Yeah, I am. I have it. Okay. Well, I didn't even know that he messaged me in vanish mode, and then I looked at it, and then it went away, and I was like, I don't know where the message went, but I don't see that we're actually friends. He goes, you don't want to be my friend? And I go, how would I know if I do? Well, I don't know what your friendships look like, but what I have in mind for you, I don't know if you'll like it respectfully. And then I screenshotted it, and then he said, no screenshots.
How did he know?
It told him.
Oh, it tells you.
Which I didn't know.
If it's in vanish mode, you shouldn't be allowed to take a screenshot. Like, I work for a company that like we're a tech company, obviously, but they're very like tight on security. And there are times when I take a screenshot because it's something that I need, and it's nothing bad, but it just says this company does not allow screenshots, and I don't get a screenshot. It's just blank with that message that says they don't allow it.
Well, it's like Snapchat, right? That's why I don't have Snapchat, because this is why.
I know nothing about Snapchat because that's the one thing I've never had.
I had it years ago, and this is why I can't do it, because it's built on disappearing messages, and so then you can go in and archive and save every freaking message, or if someone messages you back way later, then you don't even remember what they said. So then you have to save them, and you can screenshot, but then it notifies them that you screenshot it. So that's like, why are you saving this for later? Because usually you don't know if someone screenshots it, or you're banking on the fact that like, this is disappearing, so you can say whatever it is that you want to say. Like, that's why I'm just like not interested in being on Snapchat, because I think it's just gross.
I feel like some people feel that's true on Twitter. Like, you can say whatever you want and it's going to disappear, not realizing it will never disappear. And then 5 years later, they lose their job because of something they tweeted.
Yeah.
5 years ago. Okay, so he says you might not want to hear it, or respectful, or is it?
Well, he kept saying respect. He kept saying respectfully, and I was like, respectfully, you're messaging me on vanish mode. Like, this is not an enticing offer. I don't even know who you are, and you're just because you're in the league, like, I'm supposed to let you say whatever you want to say. Like, I'm like just excited about anyone.
Okay, let me ask you two questions. I always have. There's always two questions to everything. I'm asking you both. One, why do, not you specifically, but you're going to answer for all, let's be honest, women, because this rarely happens. This doesn't happen to guys. Let's be honest. Why do you leave your DMs open if that's the case? And then second part of the question is, when you get that type of, or someone reaching out, do you immediately go check their profile and see like who the hell they are and what the hell they are?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Why are my DMs open? Because my profile isn't private. So if my profile is not private, anyone can message me, and it may go into other or the
then to other
requests or whatever folder you call it. But I do check my messages, and so yeah, I might look on your page and see who you are. But with a scenario like this, if you're messaging me in that way, like there's a part of me that's like a little bit oddly
curious.
intrigued. And then when I can tell that you're young on top of it and you think you're on top of the world in some sort of way, like, and special, and like you're the first one who's approached me in this way that thinks that like I'm gonna just jump you because you know what I mean? Like to me,
especially when he plays on what team was it again?
I didn't tell you. And some people I just don't want to glorify, and that's part of it. You know what I mean? Like
that's fair.
Yeah. He wasn't anyone I knew. So like I literally had to be like,
football's a little bit harder because there's more people, like 53-man roster. And they're wearing helmets, so it's sometimes it's
right. So anyways, I then I did take the conversation went on. He then tried to be kind of respectful without being respectful, and just had terrible grammar. And I like just took pictures from my iPad of the screenshots of the conversation instead of notifying him that I was taking screenshots on my phone. So yeah,
we can do that too. What was well, you don't have to say it if it's like nasty, or you can sugarcoat it to kind of like what is the gist of the offer?
Well, then he just said, "Oh, I was trying to be polite, whatever," and I was like, "I don't think you were trying to be polite. Telling me I won't like what you have in mind, and if you really picked up on my vibe, then you wouldn't have approached me in that way from the beginning." Because he's like, "Oh, I really love your vibe," and blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Yeah, if you love my vibe and you actually even looked at my profile or read one thing that I read, like this is not the way that you would approach me. It's actually the opposite." So like,
yeah,
you know what I mean. So that was the gist of the conversation. And then it was probably like 2 weeks where I just ignored him, and he would every day be like, "Hey, how are you?" And I just didn't. It was still in vanish mode, and I just didn't respond back. So
we're going to get to the NBA player who will be revealed in a moment. But before we do that, I remember last week, because you said it quick, but you didn't. So you said it quickly. So I don't know if you thought I'd remember or not, or if you want to talk about it or not. But you said it. I remembered it. So I'm going to ask you. You said there was one that either went too far, that like needed to have either get blocked or police had to get involved or something to that extent that it went kind of past the level of normal
what was the conversation
stuff
we were having with that?
And I believe it was an MLB player.
I don't even remember his name, but he was married. Yeah, I did block him on Instagram, but I was trying to find who it was today, and I couldn't find it, so I don't know who that was. But
do you remember anything? But that was the extent. That was the worst case. It's just you had to block him because it was constant, or was it?
It was like very persistent. Yeah, and then like I could see he was married, to kids, which is very common with whether you're in the league somewhere or just men in general. Like blatant.
So was the block because he was married with, and it could be a combination of these things, married with kids, super persistent, or like rude in the message?
It was not rude, but I'm like, clearly you're married and you have children. Like, what the fuck are you doing? You know? So I didn't.
Did he respond to that?
I don't remember. It was at least.
Because I'm curious, like when you say, "Hey, I know you're married. Why are you asking me to whatever?" Like,
because I think it was like, I'll kind of like, I'm not going to just be immediately like block, but I'm like, I'm not entertaining this. This isn't a game. And I know some women do that and play that game. And I'm like, I don't like, this isn't fun for me to sit here and like, there's no end goal for me.
Yeah.
There's no whatever. And it's sick to me that there's women that will entertain that, even if they know the situation, because somebody's in that league, whatever the case is.
Well, not this is not, I'm not justifying it by any means at all. But you're putting yourself, not you, I'm speaking in general.
Yeah.
You're putting a bunch of bikini pics on IG, and some super rich, good looking, good shape athlete who's, millionaire says, "Hey, how you doing?" yeah, things aren't good at home, but I love your smile. Maybe, when I dip out on this relationship and you're like, oh wow, I can become an instant millionaire, right? Like respectfully, did that on purpose. If you're,
Yeah, and I mean,
you're throwing out bikini pics trying to get someone to look at you, again, not you, I'm talking about in general, then I can see where that would, yeah, they're going to entertain it because, well, that's what they're looking for.
but like that's another reason though to me, like, and everyone has their perception. Like I grew up as an athlete, obviously. Then I was in the bodybuilding industry. Like the bodybuilding world is like another whole world that other people like aren't exposed to on the regular unless they're like have that. So for me, that the physique part is like a very normal part of my life. However, you can compare the energy of the kinds of pictures that people are putting up and the things they're talking about and whatever. Like
Sure.
there is a certain way that you can come off in your profile and the way that you talk about
100%.
yourself and the way that you're putting yourself out there. So
Sure.
to me, I'm like,
It's
oh, you
really
look
funny, right? You're in a bikini, from and showing a picture of, let's say you're competing or getting ready to compete. So you're doing, going through your whole cut, and it's
yeah,
like one thing, but then like if you put a picture of yourself in a bra and panties, like it's the same
yeah,
amount of coverage,
right.
but it's two completely different things. Let's be
Yeah,
honest. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So it's, I mean, and it's not to say like, oh yeah, I don't know, like that people aren't going to look at this photo and say what they want to say or be turned on
sure.
by like whatever, your guy, it's fine. But
Yeah,
that,
I can't. It's
it
so
is
hard for me on a daily basis. I get hundreds and hundreds of DMs of women trying to like and men trying to like, hey, and I'm like, listen, just
right.
okay. Yeah, we don't
Right.
have to deal with this. We don't have to do this.
Yeah.
It's an
So no, and
unfortunate
it's
thing.
like I'm not so it to me, like if you're an OnlyFans model and you're complaining about guys being disgusting to you in your photos, like then you're dumb, right? And but I'm also like, hey, my photos are tasteful and I'm whatever. I'm also not going around being like, oh, I don't get why like guys are messaging me saying this stuff. Like I understand
Right.
it's the internet. You're putting yourself out there. I'm not naive to that, right? But you're married with kids. You're not married or whatever. Even this other guy who was sending messages in vanish mode, whatever. Like if you're single, you can do whatever you want. I just think he's also dumb for different reasons. So,
Why is he dumb? I want to know why he's
because
dumb.
of the way he was like talking to me and the way he came at me, like
Yeah,
you don't
but
know how to
that they've done it
actually.
that way because it worked at some point.
That's exactly it. And like you can throw shit at a wall and it's gonna stick most of the time. Like,
Yeah,
but it shows me that you deal with like girls and not like real mature
sure.
adults, like,
Yeah.
and that's why it made me laugh in that scenario. But
All right, so let's do the unveil here. All right, is it first off? Can you share maybe one line or one thing that this person DM'd you?
as I told you, it was not like an extremely riveting
Yeah,
situation.
uh, they're never interesting. We're
No, I
always
think it was
hoping for
like,
these really great. We're always hoping for these really great stories and really cool, and it's always underwhelming. So that part I know, I'm aware.
yeah, no, I think it was like some heart eye emoji. I have a screenshot of it, but yeah, it was like a heart. The first one is either just like, hey, with a heart or like a heart eye emoji or something like that. But I
Is
was
it
still a little bit like, how the fuck did you find my profile?
so? So okay. I want if we can. I don't know how many messages you sent. So the first one we got, hey, heart emoji. Is it Nikola Jokic?
No.
Okay. The second DM was, what's your address? I'm coming over.
No, the first DM was sent after I met my ex. We were not official yet, but we were like very far
Okay.
into like, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 weeks into like very closely dating. And so when this person DM'd, I like never responded.
I have a feeling it was LeBron James.
No.
Really funny. You gave me a weird look just now, and it's
No, but
because
I'm just thinking like if we if I did say yes, like the amount of controversy that could like stir up if we just decided to
No,
post
hold
it,
on.
like lie about it.
Okay, let's do that. So first,
I just have like a weird like scenario that happened in my head in like 2 seconds when you just asked me that question.
Well, here's why I think you gave me a weird look, or why I thought you gave me a weird look. So I did this and realized that I had my settings wrong, so you didn't hear it. And I'm like,
but you thought I heard it in my head, like we were doing this.
I thought you heard it, and then because I paused for so long, I thought you gave me a look like, why is he pausing for so long? And then saying LeBron James. It's because I pushed the button and it didn't work. So to be clear, in your DMs was LeBron James.
No.
I'm going to clip it to yes. All right. My pick. Zion Williamson of the New Orleans Pelicans, who, by the way, has been outed for sliding into DMs of many women and athletes and celebrities and whatever. And I believe it was, I wish I could remember the most recent one, where they posted his thing and been like, nah, dude, like, and shared it with everybody. Did he also?
I know, but like, I think that also would be weird to do. To just be like, to just share like, oh no, I'm not interested. Like, as if you're, I don't know. I wouldn't like post. I would never once would ever post that on my story unless it was like something really like off the wall, you know? Were they like scandalous messages or something, or was it just like a normal message?
It was the girl from the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, or Logan Paul, no, Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight. She was the ring girl, something, okay. Sydney something, and I'm pulling it up so I can see it if I can. So she became famous basically for being the ring girl of that fight. So everyone, you know, I don't think anyone knew who the hell she was before that. And if I can find, oh yes, here we go. So he again, we don't, okay, so she didn't, I apologize, she did not post the DM. What happened was he posted on her timeline or whatever after the fight. He saw her and he said, check your DM shawty. And she said and then she responds, so everyone's seeing this publicly, huh? Who are you calling shorty? I'm good. Enjoy your recovery.
Oh my God. But so, that's like, so this is exactly like the messages I was telling you about with this other guy. It's like you pop in and act like you're like no woman wants you to just be like, oh my God, you're so cool. Yes, let me just put you on a pedestal. Like, I don't know. And that, again, that's how a lot of.
Well, what do you want him to do? Hey, I'm sending you a plane ticket. Let's come meet me for dinner. Like
shoddy, like you gotta say shoddy.
Yeah, shorty. What up, shorty?
Like, I don't know. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, just tacky. Like, you really, like, if you really look at this woman and be like, wow, like truly, you're not looking at her like she just walked by on the street and you're catcalling her as she's walking by. You don't say, hey, shoddy, I sent you a DM, slide back in. Like, let's, you know, like,
hit me up on my two-way. No.
Yeah. Or you could be like, hey, I sent you a DM. Like, just be like respectful about it, or like be a little bit more, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just tacky to me.
What if you got sent a voice note? Beautiful. Would you like that?
People do send a lot of voice notes.
Yeah.
I don't mind someone sliding in my DMs if they're like being normal and like respectful and like want to have a normal conversation. I've met a lot of people that way.
Yeah.
I drank a beer. I drank another beer.
And then I slid into your DMs. So we're gonna go with the last one who's left. So by process of elimination, the should-be starting center of the Los Angeles Lakers, but instead he's playing for the Shanghai Sharks. Was it Dwight Howard?
Yes. Which I didn't actually know.
Dwight Howard.
I didn't actually know that he was.
You didn't know
where he's at now. Well, no, I knew he was with LA back when, but I didn't know he like left and now is in another country.
I don't know if he's in with the Shanghai Sharks. I think he's playing somewhere in Taiwan, actually.
But did that just happen after there was something that came out about him like last year about propositioning men or something, like something came out with
No, he's been there for maybe 2 or 3 years now, since no one in the leagues has signed him. So he's been there for a couple of years, and yes, that's why I was gonna that's why I'm very curious about this one, because there was a lot of, he likes men. There was someone who said a man who said they were like dating. There was a couple of trans women who said, yeah, he's very openly, with us quite often. None of that has been necessarily confirmed, however. But Dwight Howard slides in and says, "What up, shorty?" Like,
no, and then again, there was no I never answered. Like I never answered back. It was whatever. And then there was another message at some point that he it was like a couple years later, like came back, just sent a little like hi, or like it was
years later.
It was like at least, because it was after that, like my ex and I were together a year, and then it was like after him and I had been like broken up. Then there was another DM. So like I didn't even follow him.
Yeah, when he initially messages you, you said you don't respond because you were with someone?
I didn't.
Or did you say, sorry, I'm with someone?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. And then so just coincidentally, a year or whatever later, you're no longer
that's what's weird to me. Like, yeah, that like, because I didn't follow him. I didn't even like nothing. So then I don't know, maybe it just popped up again. I had no idea.
And they're just haze?
Huh?
We want juicy stuff. Like, here's my number.
I told you. That's why I told you. Like, that was not a juicy interaction. Like, it happened, but it was not. I mean, yeah, on the messaging.
Would you like an introduction to Dwight Howard? Because we're actually working on getting him and Shaq, who's Shaquille O'Neal, who's a friend of the show's. He's related. He's related to my co-host. We're trying to get the two of them together because they have a beef and we want them to squash it. But I could also give you an introduction if
I would love to be his like 8th baby mama. Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Does he have a lot of baby mama?
I think he has. Well, I think he has a lot of kids. I don't know like how many women, but I think he has a lot of kids.
All right. Well, Dwight, if you're watching, take another shot.
Also, I'm not trans, so if that's your interest, count me out. I have people who can vouch for. I get people who can vouch for that one.
It's yeah. That's never been confirmed. So let's
okay.
be. I don't want to.
I just remember when it came out, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting."
Yeah, maybe he just likes tall women.
Could be
because he's tall. Like he's not like Shaquille. Speaking of Shaq, like Shaquille O'Neal dates these little 5'2" girls, and I'm like, dude, like
that's weird. Yeah.
But anyways, next week, everyone's finally gonna get what they want.
Is that what they want? You gone?
Yeah, 100%.
We want him gone.
Yeah, that's been the number one comment is why is he on here? So I just might come back every once in a while just to like piss people off. But the official co-host will be here. I'm gonna watch because I think it's gonna be fun based on what you've told me and the background that you two have with each other.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to it. It's been a pleasure doing this with you for a couple of weeks, by the way. We should I would like some health tips though, because let's be honest. I'm getting older. I should probably start caring a little bit. It goes by so fast. Our time is done. Next week will be, like I said, the new co-host, still with a health tip. And then have you guys talked about yet what you're gonna talk about next week, like for the first episode? Like, have you decided? Like, obviously intro her, of course, but
we have like so many interesting things we want to talk about. So I don't know if I want to like try to figure out like outline for like the weeks, but I think it's almost more fun to like have something that we want to talk about and just go, because that's like how her and I are. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
it's like we have like 15 things we want to talk about, and we talk about 2 because we talk about it for way too long and it's interesting. But similarly, you know, but
well, maybe every once in a while I'll jump in and like interrupt and be a pain in the butt.
yeah.
All right. So that's it. It was LeBron James for those that are watching. LeBron James. I gotta make sure so I can clip that. And more from Casie Unhinged next week. Stay tuned for NBA Max coming up next, which will be I don't know if you'd like this. We're gonna do an NBA draft only. All the players are 30 and older, so it's an old man draft. And talking about NBA MVP coming up. NBA Max right after this.
Oh, Canada.
Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
No, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.